What's up guys, T-Mart here, and today we are going to be talking about the 10 things that I do not like about Call of Duty World War II. So the past couple of days have been crazy. I have been absolutely grinding this beta, having a great time. Honestly, I think I played more public matches in the past 2 days than I have in the 365 days before that. Like I've actually been enjoying it. It's been refreshing, and I think overall the general consensus of this community is people like this so far. But that's not to say it's perfect. There are definitely some things that need to change, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, because after all, that's what a beta is about. I mean, nowadays, a beta is kind of a little bit more of a marketing play. They want to get you hyped up about the game, get you a preview, get you to pre-order, that sort of thing. But, I mean, at the same time, a beta is meant to be a test of the game. You take this early version of the game, you work out the kinks, you fix the issues, balance everything, and try to give us the best version of the game you could possibly give us by the time that November 3rd rolls around. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I encourage you guys to join the conversation. If you disagree with anything I'm about to say, feel free to leave a comment down below. If there's anything you think I missed, you want to add something, leave a comment down below, and let's get this discussion started. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this one isn't really original, everybody's been talking about this, everybody's experienced this. In fact, I think the devs have already said that they're aware of it and they're working on it, and that's the time it takes to get from the end of a match into the post-game lobby. Most of the time, it is ridiculously long. You guys are watching it on screen right here. This one took upwards of a minute to get from when the match ended through the scoreboard screen, through the winner's circle screen, into the final menu. And then at that point, I had 15 seconds to figure out what I had unlocked, the new things that I had acquired and that sort of stuff, change my classes, and get ready for the next match. It was absolutely ridiculous, and that's not what Call of Duty is about. I mean, Call of Duty has always been about getting in and out of the action very quickly. All the matches are like 12 minutes or less. A lot of the multiplayer matches are probably, 7 to 8 minutes or less, and it's just that quick, fast-paced action sitting there for a minute while this game kind of reloads into the main lobby is absolutely crazy, and that has to be fixed. Now, the second thing I want to talk about here, and we're going to kind of move into some more like menu-focused stuff, and then we'll talk about gameplay stuff I'd like to change. So the second thing I have here is just the menu system in general. Like, this is kind of a hard thing to talk about because it is a beta. I'm sure it's not the final menu system, and I kind of see where they were going with it. They were trying to simplify it and kind of, dumb things down a little bit, I guess. I don't know. Just this whole game has been about simplification. Take out the jetpacks, take out the crazy variants and all that sort of stuff, and just simplify everything. So I understand where they're going, but some of the changes, I just don't know why they were necessary. So like now, just in general, like the menus, we have this tab system up at the top with L1 and R1. I just don't really like that. Call of Duty has always had all the options on the left. You scroll up and down with your left stick, you hit X or A or whatever your button is to move into stuff. I don't know why we've now moved to this weird column tab system. I don't know what to call it. I don't like it. It's awkward, especially for long-time Call of Duty players, so I don't know why we had to change it. Now, there's also other little things, like in-game when you press the start button, it takes you directly to where you choose your class instead of to an area that shows you your options and then also gives you an overlay of the map, which I really used that a lot in the previous games. Now, I did realize, and I didn't know this for the first day and a half or so, you can tab over with R1, again, that stupid tab system, but you can go over with R1 to get an overview of the map in World War II, but that's just, I don't know why we added an extra button there. I mean, it's really useful, like when you call in a UAV, to be able to pull up the menu system, see an immediate overlay of the map, and know exactly where all the enemies are, figure out where they're spawning, and figure out where you want to go. Now, you got to pull it up, and you got to tab over. There's no reason to add that extra button, and especially because the minimap doesn't really give us a lot in this game. I don't know, I feel like that was kind of a little downgrade. And then finally, last but not least, definitely the biggest thing is the whole social system. I mean, the party system, inviting people, it's not very good. It takes longer than it used to, and it's really hard to see who's actually in your party. I mean, unless you're actually on that social tab, which who just sits on the social tab? Nobody. You can't tell who's in your party. Like if you're in the Find the Match tab, or if you're in your Soldier tab, editing your classes and stuff like that, if you're just kind of hanging out in the main menus, you can't see who's in your party, which makes no sense. No matter what tab you're in, you should be able to see a list of players in your party and be able to know what's going on. So I think the whole menu system just in general kind of needs a little bit of a rework. The third thing I've got on my list is we are missing two crucial button layouts in the options menu bumper jumper and stick and move. So these two button layouts have become staples of Call of Duty for the past couple of years because of the jetpack games. These things allow you to keep both thumbs on the thumbsticks. You can constantly be moving and constantly be aiming while also jumping, depending on which one you use. Bumper jumper uses the bumpers to jump, stick and move uses the sticks. So that's been crucial for the jetpack games because everybody's flying around and wall running and constantly moving like that. And even though there's not quite that level of movement in this game, jump shotting is still very, very, very important. Like, I mean, I can't even tell you guys how many times I've won gunfights I probably shouldn't have won because somebody else had first shot, but I jumped, and obviously that's going to mess with their aim a little bit, and with the slower time to kill, it feels like you got a little bit more health. It gives you that one up in that gunfight, even if you don't have first shot. So seriously, well-timed jump shots in this game, I honestly think are equally as important as a well-timed jump shot was back in the past couple of years with jetpacks. So, I mean, people have become used to playing with those. I don't know why they weren't added into this game, because even though we're boots in the ground, it's still very, very important to Call of Duty to be able to jump shot and drop shot and that sort of thing, even if we aren't flying through the air. Moving on to the fourth thing on my list, we're going to start talking about more of the gameplay side of things. So this one is a very, very little detail, but it's kind of irksome. And I mean, I play a lot of Domination. Domination's a very popular playlist, so I don't know why they changed this. But the objective markers in Dom don't tell you how far along your teammates are to capturing that flag. So like normally you have the objective marker and then like it kind of fills up as your teammates capture it. So you can immediately see, hey, they're halfway done with B. Hey, they're 95% of the way done with B, that sort of thing. So it lets you know what you should do. Should you go run and hop on that flag? Would you even get there in time before they're going to cap it? Well, you don't have that in this game. It tells you they're capturing it, but it doesn't tell you how far along they are. So, I mean, I can see on one side, like, it's kind of cool they're not giving you information. They want you to, like, talk to your teammates and that sort of thing. But when you're just playing public matches and solo queuing and kind of playing by yourself, it's frustrating when, like, you could have been set up watching over them, helping them out from a distance, but instead you try to run to help them capture the flag and they capture it before you even get there. Like that just, it leads to a couple of frustrating moments in Domination. I'd like to see that come back. The fifth thing on my list here, I couldn't really decide if I wanted to put this here because it is a beta after all, so obviously a lot of stuff is going to change by the time the full game comes around. And actually, it's both good and bad. Like there's some things about it that I like and some things about it that I don't like, but I'm talking about the weapon balancing. So I think overall as a whole, the weapon balancing is pretty good. Like in terms of a class by class basis, I think everything is something that you can use. Everything, there's nothing that's completely outclassed. I mean, you can use a shotgun, you can use LMGs, you can use snipers. Everything feels good together. And we're going to talk about that more in my good things about World War II video. But there are a few, you know, anomalies that we definitely need to change. Like the grease gun is completely outclassed by all the other SMGs. It's not a bad weapon, it's just not nearly as good as any of the other ones. The pistols are absolutely atrocious. I realize they're a secondary, they're supposed to be a last-ditch effort, but with that fire rate cap they have on them that really limits how fast you can shoot them, I mean, it's awful. They're super awkward to use, and I don't like that at all. And then, you know, maybe the PPSH could use a little bit of a nerf. I don't know. I'm kind of torn because it's definitely a good weapon. It's definitely one of the better weapons, if not the best. But I don't feel it's like head and shoulders above everything else and nothing else is competitive. So I don't know, that's kind of a tough one there, but you know, those are the three things that really stood out to me in terms of weapon balancing. Let me know what you guys think. The sixth one here is actually kind of related to weapon balancing. So we're going to be talking about those god-awful incendiary shells, and I say that with a loving heart because I think they're a lot of fun. I mean, when you're using them, it's a blast. It's so much fun to see all the, you know, fire and sparks and everything coming out of the end of your gun and setting people on fire. It's very exciting. It's very, very effective. When you're on the receiving end of it, it can be kind of frustrating, especially when somebody shoots you and then you back around a corner, you still die anyway because their flames are hurting you. I like the idea that shotguns are good in this game. I like that they're a viable option, especially on the map point to hawk, and I don't want to see them nerfed in any way. But I do think that we could do away with the incendiary shells in the point that instead of spawning in with incendiary shells loaded, I think it should be an option. So if you're running that expeditionary division, you're going to spawn in with a shotgun that's fully loaded up with normal shells. And then if you want, you can press left on the D-pad to load your incendiary shells, but then that's an active decision you have to make every time you spawn in. It takes a second or two, you're vulnerable while you're doing it. I think that would be a better trade-off. Just automatically giving people incendiary shells leads to a lot of craziness, a lot of BS, and it's just, I mean, point to Hawk sometimes I feel like there are like 8 people with incendiary shells just lighting everything on fire, which is just way too crazy. I think if we changed it so that rather than spawning in with them, you had to actually load them, I think that would kind of cut back a little bit while also keeping them in the game because they're kind of fun. Number 7, now we're going to be talking about the Recon plane. So I'm sure a lot of you guys knew this was going to be in the list. The Recon plane is A, way too weak, and B, way too hard to get. I wouldn't say way too hard to get, but for how weak it is, it's definitely too hard to get. So something needs to be changed here. We either need to lower the points it takes to get, or we need to give it more health. You guys can see right here, I mean, with an assault rifle, with an LMG, even with an SMG, you can take these things down so easily. They're huge, they're bulky, they're slow, very easy to shoot with any sort of primary weapon. And I mean, for 500 points, which in an objective game mode, that's a 10 kill streak. For 500 points, if somebody can take that out of the sky with half a magazine of an assault rifle, that's just, that's too weak, man. We've got to give them a little bit more health. We got to make them harder to hit, or we've got to make them easier to get. I think there's definitely a middle ground to be seen there. Moving on to number 8, this one is honestly, this is one of the most important ones to me. I feel like this is super, super crucial. The sounds for the hit markers and the headshots are absolutely not where they need to be. So this is going to sound kind of weird, but you know how in some Call of Duty games you can really feel the hit markers? Like you just, it's the sound obviously, it's not actually a feeling, but you feel like you can feel the hit markers. You just don't have that in this game. The hit markers are very bland, they're very plain and flat, and I don't know, you can't really feel it. You don't feel like you're hitting somebody, and then even more importantly, the headshots are so disappointing. Check out this clip right here. I just got a double headshot and it was just like, it wasn't satisfying at all. And that ting of the headshot sound in Call of Duty has always been an iconic sound. And I mean, especially in a game like this where we have the pop of the M1 Garand cartridge and the whistle of the bomb falling from the sky when you get that, the glide bomb or whatever it is. I mean, it's just, there's so many cool sounds in this game, the shock waves from artillery hitting the ground and stuff like that. I do not understand why we don't have a really cool ping of a bullet hitting a World War II helmet. I feel like that has to have a way better ping, and it's just, I don't know, it needs to be way more satisfying. So I would love to see them improve the sound of both the hit markers and the headshots, maybe even add in that flash, like, different color hit marker to confirm you got the kill, something. I don't know, I feel like shooting people in this game is not nearly as satisfying as it should be. Number 9, another really, really big one for me. I've saved the best ones for last. The in-game footsteps need to be reworked. I feel like you can't really hear the footsteps in this game. There's so many noises going on in the background, like not even just grenades and stuff going on inside the map, but like outside of the map, explosions going off, just like for dramatic effect and scenery. I like that, but all of that 100% drowns out the footsteps. I feel like you cannot sound whore at all in this game, which sound whoring is a big part of Call of Duty, especially for people who like competitive and who like search and destroy. So it's really weird to have a game where you can't listen to footsteps very well. And I mean, nobody's running around with the dead silence perk on the mountain division right now. So people, you should be able to hear people right now as it is, and you can't. So we definitely need louder footsteps or a way to be able to hear them. And then also, I think we need to cut back on the callouts, like the chatter, the battle chatter of the soldiers in the game. There's so much going on in terms of the yelling and the calling out, and I see him over there and that sort of thing. I feel like it's constantly giving away my position when I'm trying to flank the enemy, and it's constantly giving away enemy positions for me to be able to take them out, which is fine. I mean, it's good when it's happening for me, but it's just weird. It's like this year they decided to say, F the footsteps. Now it's going to be all about the in-game voice actors and the battle chatter, which is weird. Like, I think there's room for both, but I feel like footsteps are a little bit more important, and they always have been in the previous years of Call of Duty. So I would definitely like to see footsteps come back and tone back the battle chatter a little bit. Finally, last but not least, we have made it to the 10th thing that I do not like about this game, and this is another big one. I don't like that you could only put silencers on SMGs. I think that was really, really dumb. Now, we're going to talk about, am I good things about World War II? I do kind of like the new division system. I think it's interesting. I think it makes you think more, and it doesn't lead to cookie cutter classes where everybody's running the same perks and the same weapons and attachments and stuff like that. So I do like that it forces you to kind of step outside of the box a little bit, but I hate that you can only run silencers on SMGs. I absolutely think we at least need to have silencers on the assault rifles. I don't care if you do it as an attachment. I don't care if you do it, I mean, it could be an infantry perk. You know, there could be, you know, infantry 3, you end up getting a silencer, and maybe to make it a little bit different from the airborne, you can't remove the silencer in the middle of the match on an assault rifle. I don't know, but it's just like, it's weird not being able to run a silencer on assault rifles, and I don't understand why we would add that complication. Like, there's no reason to take that out. In the beta right now, I guess it's not the most important thing because we only have a couple of maps and a couple of modes, but when you think about when we start getting into, you know, having search and destroy, you're gonna want that stealth ability. When you think about, you know, a lot of people like to run those stealth classes. You know, somebody wants to run the mountain division that has like to stay off the radar as long as you're moving and that sort of thing, but they want to use an assault rifle. They can no longer make a stealth assault class, which like that's always been a huge part of Call of Duty. I run silencers a lot. I think they're very effective, and I don't know. I don't see why we took silencers off of assault rifles, and I think they need to be brought back. So there you guys have it. Those are my 10 things that I do not like about COD World War II. There are definitely some other things out there that we could maybe talk about in future videos, but those were just kind of the 10 that really stood out to me so far during the beta. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and drop a like on the video if you guys would like me to make another one talking about the 10 things that I do like and the things I think that Sledgehammer really hit the nail on the head with. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace out.